So it's Massimiliano, right? That's the way you pronounce it.
So it's Massimiliano.
Massimiliano.
Yes, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Massimiliano,
Yeah,
Freddy.
yeah, that's it. That's it. You're right. Yeah,
Okay. Well,
got it.
Massi is
That's why
easy.
Massi or Max is better because it's faster.
Max, yeah, there we go. Well, he's our 2025 IAAPA Chairman of the board, and he's founder of Wonderwood, which he's going to talk a little bit about in a little bit, give us an overview.
Yeah,
He's had a really interesting history. He's worked in the leisure industry for over 20 years now, I guess it is.
almost
And
25. Yeah.
25, yeah, it goes fast,
Almost.
doesn't it?
Oh,
And let me tell you something, Max, you haven't seen anything yet. The next 25 are crazy.
yeah,
Um,
that scares me.
yeah, he's also worked at Disney Paris
Yeah,
and
yeah, correct.
Leolandia, I believe you were at
Yes,
for a while.
correct. Yeah, yeah.
And you did a stint with Trade Lab,
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
correct?
I was consulting at that time. Yeah.
And you are you still an adjunct professor at Ulm University?
I still am, and it's a big point of pride to me, because we are also coordinating and organizing several things to have more young professionals in our industry. So I've tried to convince everybody in Italy and in my university that we are not a niche industry. We are a huge driver of business for the entire travel industry and so on. So I'm very happy about that.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Um, is that university in Milano?
It's in Milan. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's in
Oh,
Milan.
okay.
Correct.
I wasn't familiar with it till I read your background. Well, give us a few minutes of your background. I've given an overview. Dig in a little bit and
Yeah.
share with our visitors what you've done and why
Yes,
you've
who I
done it.
am. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. Interesting. So, I would love to say long story short. I'm not sure I can keep it short, but let's do my best. So, I was born in Genoa, which is a beautiful city on the coast next to the Cinque Terre. Everybody knows Cinque Terre, and whoever needs to go to Cinque Terre needs to go through Genoa. But several people don't stop in Genoa. So I was born there in 81, and I've attended a German school, which means that I could be the brother of Jakob Wahl, more or less. I studied everything in German since I was a kid, from the kindergarten on. So
Yeah.
every language from German and everything. So I think that I was, in a way, my faith would have been to travel and have this international vibe. But my city was truly boring. And I want to say that because as a kid, the escape from my city was literally to go to a park. And we only had two parks in my radar. One was a very small water park called Le Caravelle. It's very close. It's 1 hour and a half away from my city. And
Mhm.
this would be a place every summer where I really would have fun with all of my friends and that. And Gardaland, on the other hand, was my other big passion. And as a kid, I've mentioned it on stage at IAAPA, of course. I was an orphan. I lost my mother when I was 20 months old. So my family was a very complicated family. And I would say that parks used to be kind of my refugee. So they used to be the place where I felt safe, where I felt valued, where I felt, protagonist even.
Mhm. Right?
So as I grew up, this passion was a bit one of a kind because not the entire world is like the United States, where you had a Walt Disney, or where you grew up with attractions, regional attractions, local attractions. There was a culture of attractions.
Yeah.
Europe is not like that in every country. The Netherlands is a little bit like the US in some cases. Italy was not.
Right.
So in my case, when I told to my friends I'm passionate about parks, they would just make fun of me because I didn't love soccer. And you know that soccer in Italy is pretty a big thing. Soccer and cars.
Yeah. Yeah.
So okay, so when I grew up, let's say that my passion for the parks led to what I have studied. So I have a bachelor degree and a master's degree in marketing in both cases. And then I co-founded the first Italian community about parks, which is called parksmania.it. It's still there, and it's still not only alive, but very, very active in organizing summits and all of that. So we co-founded that in 98. You and I remember what the world was like in 98, where internet was still a noisy internet. We had to connect to a modem and this kind of stuff.
It took about 15 minutes. Yeah.
Yes. And then you would pay a lot of money for each minute you would stay connected. So you would check out the things, disconnect, read the things, reconnect, this kind of things. We've been through that. So when I graduated at school, I decided again to attend a marketing university. That's Ulm University, where I'm actually working right now as well as an adjunct professor. And then after graduating, I had this dream about working for Disneyland Paris, and that was the biggest possible dream that a fan could have. And so I applied by chance. So I don't want to tell you now the entire story, or it will take 45 minutes. But my point there was I found grown-ups, adults that saw a spark in me. And somehow, even if I felt a total imposter, they were able to nudge me and to kind of push me in applying and showing up and so on. So I started as an intern at Disneyland Paris. And after 3 months, I got hired as a press and PR junior manager. And then I stayed with Disney 4 years. I became also marketing manager. It was a fantastic thing. And, as I always say, I got paid to go to Disney. Now, can you believe that?
Yeah.
Fantastic. And when you are 23 years old, it's even better. And then when I quit, I joined Leolandia with Mr. Zamperla at that time, with Alberto, as a general manager assistant. My boss was Fernando Velasquez and then Diego Dates. Both guys then opened Coney Island in New York. So I was friend with them. I'm a big friend still with them and with Antonio Zamperla as well. So I started in Leolandia, and I stayed with Leolandia for 6 years as a general manager. And then when I resigned there, I still was part of the board of directors for more years and a consultant as well. So what can I say? I have never done anything else than following my passion. So I think that when I decided, to no longer have a comfortable life as a consultant, but I wanted to risk my ass off for real, I've opened my own company, and with my husband, we've opened Wonderwood. And I think, thank God, we were really crazy, because if we would not have been crazy, we would have looked at the real numbers, the real risks. Yeah. But when you fall in love, you underestimate the risks always. So we've opened in 2019. We are on a beautiful Lake Maggiore, 2 hours away from Milan. Stunning view, 3,000 feet above the lake. It's beautiful. Our theming is the real nature there, so it's mind blowing. And then
I went online. I wanted to say I went online and did a aerial, and then I did some video, and it is a glorious place.
It is. We are so lucky.
That is nature at its best.
We are so lucky to be there. And so we've opened in 2019. We survived the 2 COVID years. And then in 2023, we've opened a second facility, indoor, this time in Milan, which is called Wonderwood Green Forest. And now, while we are talking, we are 1 month away from the opening of Wonderwood Lake Como. So another park again. And there are more to come. So we are currently designing a couple of others already. I think that, so if I could sum up my entire, I don't want to even call it career, because, I was literally not into career. I was not interested in a career. I didn't want to become a director. It was not my driver. It has arrived, but it wasn't my driver. My driver was, I think, to heal the wounds of a kid, for sure, that I was. So that was a big driver. And when you are trying in a mature way, I think, to heal your own wounds, all of a sudden, you become more aware of how important our industry is in connecting kids, in connecting families, in giving them those special moments. So I think that my entire life maybe is a life on a mission.
Well, that's wonderful. And I couldn't agree with you more. And if you've ever seen our podcast we used to do, particularly during the COVID times, I always ended up with saying, We live and work in a wonderful industry. We don't make hubcaps. We don't put smoke in the air or pollute the rivers. What do? We put smiles
Yes,
on people's faces, and that's what you're
yes.
talking about.
Correct. And we can really give also so much inspiration to for the people to be more positive and to find moments, quality moments to spend together. So I think that we have all assisted over the last 10, 15 years that we are much more individualistic because we have these devices in our hands that just respond to the personalization we want them to apply. And it's all about me. And all of a sudden you enter a facility like ours, an attraction, whatever it is, it can be an aquarium, it can be, a water park, it can be, you name it,
Yeah.
a midway. And all
An
of a
epic
sudden, it's
universe.
an epic universe very soon. Um, mm, so, oh, and by the way, let's make sure that you and I get invited for a grand opening.
Yeah, I'll
Okay, so
make
let's
sure.
make
Yeah,
sure
yeah. We'll,
this
we'll get a
happens.
hold of John McReynolds and make sure he puts
Yes,
it on the list.
yes. We will do a lot of pressure on that.
Or or
Um,
or or Max, we'll pan him.
Okay. If we climb, if we find fences that are not too high, we can even decide to climb. But let's see.
There you go.
Let's see. But that to say that all of a sudden, when people enter a facility like ours, like our industry have, it's no longer a me, it's a we. So I think that the pure magic we do in our industry is that we turn me's into we's.
Yeah.
And I think that's just beautiful.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. And I, as you probably know, you probably weren't even born yet when I was chairman, but about 35 years ago.
Wow.
But
Wow.
when I was chairman, we're going to talk a little bit about IAAPA here in a second. This kind of good lead in. When I was chairman, I led the first two strategic plans, and what we found was we were an international association in name, but we were really an American association.
Yes.
I think we had one, maybe two, one for sure, members on our board of directors from the
Yeah.
international market.
Yeah.
There was no one else. And of course, my company, ITPS, 95% of our business for 43 years or 42 years has been in the international market. So I didn't have that xenophobic attitude towards the international market. So it was important to me to go out and help bring this in. And which leads me to my point. I was really pleased when I saw you come in to the chairs and move through to become chairman for two reasons. First of all, being international and first Italian, I believe.
Yes, first
Uh,
Italian ever. Yeah.
and number two, Wonderwood is a wonderful and beautiful park, as we just said and you described, but it's certainly not one of the largest in the industry.
Oh no, I guess we are possibly the smallest.
Well, you might maybe Hanayashiki in Japan, about the
Okay.
same, about an acre and a half. When
Okay.
you get down to it. So,
Okay. I'll double check. I'm not sure.
yeah, yeah. I went when I was chairman of IAAPA. I brought in Japan, Brazil, Mexico, Germany, and Russia to the IAAPA. I went out and embraced them. Went to Japan, met with Kazuo Yamada, who owned Togo, Japan, and Hanayashiki Park. And when we walked in this park, right in the middle of Tokyo, literally less than an acre and a half, about your size, I walked in, and all the people were lined up who worked in the park, maybe 300. They all bowed. Mr. Yamada was at the end, and he said, "Welcome to Hanayashiki, world's smallest but most efficient." And I love that.
Very
And
good. That's very Japanese, eh?
and it
Efficiency.
was it was
Yeah.
efficient. But I was
Yeah.
happy to see you come in representing this segment.
Yeah.
It shows no boundaries for IAAPA in terms of you don't have to be the chairman of Disney or Epic
Yeah.
Universal,
Yeah. Yeah.
Six
Yeah.
Flags or Hershey or Dollywood, or you can be, if you have the passion, you have the drive, you have the motivation, you have the energy, and you have the drive to want to make it happen. It's the individual that we're looking for, and that's what you're working with at Own University too. You're growing that segment. Um, I guess one of the things I wanted to talk to you about in are your goals and objectives. You're already this will be the fastest year of your life. I've been through it.
Oh, it's already super fast, you know.
You've
So,
already through 25% of it.
oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Okay. And really what I wanted to ask you are what are your personal goals and objectives as the chairman, and how do you plan to achieve those in that short year? I mean, it goes like the wick on a firecracker.
Yeah. Okay, so I've used a word before that is inspiration. And let me tell you one thing. I have been part of the education subcommittee for the MEA region for 4 years, and then I've chaired it for other 4 years because it was COVID. So all these extensions, 3+1.
Yeah.
So let's say that I'm an education guy, but I dislike the word education because I call it inspiration. The thing that we can do is that we share ideas, we share stories, we share contexts, we share experiences, bad things we've been through. And this thing inspires other people to act, and not just to react, but to act. So I would say that my overall goal is to create the best possible situation in which inspiration flourish, to make inspiration flourish.
Mm-hmm.
And I see two aspects there, two big pillars. One pillar is about the younger generations. So I said it also during my interview as a potential chair. I am really, really worried that in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, it will be so much harder, even harder than it is right now, to find the right people and to find people who love our industry and that will play it forward.
I agree.
So I think, and we've seen it, it's getting worse and worse. And by the way, we are not the only industry suffering, but the other industries are bigger. They are better at fighting. If you think about the hospitality industry, hotels, if you think about F&B industry, they are more aggressive because they are more. And people recognize them in a much easier way. Whatever city you are in, you turn your look around and there is a hotel, there is a B&B, there is a restaurant, there is a bar. So of course, if less people want to work during weekends and they don't want to work to welcome people, of course, we might not be the first choice. I would love to make sure it's more obvious. So one of the important goals, we have been starting also with a stronger support from the association to the IAAPA Foundation to make sure that we can start to collaborate with several more schools and colleges. And I think that we need to start when kids are 14 or 15 years old, we need to start to make our word visible as a possible place.
Are you talking about in Europe or US or South
all
America?
Over the place,
or...
all over the place, all over the place.
Okay.
Last week we have, I have participated to a young professional online, let's call it summit for Latin America, and so Mexico. It was in Spanish, so I would say Latin America, and we had 150 young people attending. Amazing. So there is a huge appetite. So wherever we are able to provide the platforms, and the platforms mean really not only the technological platform, but a human platform for these young people to feel seen and to connect, I think we are in a good shape. So that's why one of the big goals is how can we accelerate on a multi-year plan that will see students and young professionals much more central than they have been before to IAAPA and to our industry. And that's one part.
Let me ask you something. I know we bring them into IAAPA, you and I, when we saw each other down in Orlando. In fact, I think we were in a picture in Jim Shea Premier's booth with some of the young people. Is that same thing being done when the IAAPA is holding the European trade show? Are you having the young people come in from Europe?
More and more, yeah. The big issue we have with Europe is that you don't have enough universities as the US that are seeing the industry as a possible outlet. So the big issue there is that in Europe, we need to contact, communicate with, inspire, and so on, several more. And I don't want to just say universities, I want to say schools. Because again, there are kids that are 16 or 17 or 18, they need to decide what to do in life, and maybe
Right.
they're passionate about engineering. I would love them to think, as an engineer, I could design a ride, instead of as an engineer, I could just design a bridge. Total respect for bridges. But I think we have a very
We need
sexy
those too. Yeah.
problem. Yeah, I see that. So my point there is, yes, Europe is doing more. Last year, IAAPA EMEA has organized a fantastic event in January for students and young professionals. We were in a beautiful park in Toverland, over 100 participants again. So
Wow.
there are more and more, but I think we need to multiply this by 10, not by 1 or 2 or 5. We need to be brave, and we need to multiply by 10 and understand what can we do to reach 10. And then there is the other pillar that I want to say, because it's all linked with inspiration, and to me is meeting as many members as possible. So last week, I came back from the US. I've spent, it was my very first official small trip was in Italy, indeed. But let's say that my second official trip, it was by car. No need to book flights. But my second trip was to attend the event at Vegas that IAAPA has organized. And from that moment on, for 2 weeks until the FEC summit, I've been around on my own with Michael Shelton, and I have met some 30 operators in just a few days. So I'm very aggressive when it comes to that, because I want to meet as many people as possible. They have amazing stories they can share, and they give me inspiration. And what I can be like a bouncing board. I can make sure that their sound becomes not a noise, but a music, because I can listen to 2 different instruments. So my point here is, I want as many members to really feel seen and to feel listened to, and that we, as a member-centric organization, are really able to represent members. And members are so diverse now. You've mentioned it. There are the epic universes, there are the Wonderwoods, and everything in between, and even manufacturers and suppliers. I visited like Characters Unlimited, and they have such a unique kind of business.
I know the company, sure.
They are amazing. I drove myself there, and in the same morning, I also visited specialty vehicles. I visited a Kawabanga water park. So I love when we have this. Sometimes it's just half an hour, but half an hour in really asking people what keeps you up at night, and how can we help.
I want to add something, because what you're saying to me is so important. I'm going to tell you something. We're talking about you today, but you need to know a little bit about my background. When I was chairman, the first thing I did, I was kind of like Donald Trump. When I went out of office, I appointed myself head of the education program, and we were just getting it started back then, Max. And I went to Cornell University up in Ithaca, New York, because it was a hospitality university, well known here in America. We only had a couple at that point in time, kind of like the great schools, hospitality schools over in Switzerland.
Yes.
And I spent 2 or 3 months a whole year actually going back and forth. And we created the IAAPA first education program. And I wrote the glossary and the syllabus, and I actually went up and taught the professors who taught the students, one of whom you will know. He did okay, Rene Aziz. Renee was in the first class. Elaine Baldacci was in, but we put several hundred people through there. So I couldn't agree with you more. And what I wanted to say is, got a wonderful school here in Ohio where I reside, Bowling Green University, and you met some of the students at IAAPA. It's great to go around and see the heads of parks who are in the business. But you, with your background and with your passion, it would be wonderful to see you get out and hit some of those schools too, and go in and talk to them for a short period.
You are 100% on spot. So one of the things that I'm sharing with the regional VPs of IAAPA is, let's make sure that when I visit, it might be Shanghai or it might be Mexico City, that we have meetings with the deans or with people who coordinate this university. I could easily lecture. I'm a professor myself, so
That's what you do.
I know what it is. But and I also am part of several European exchanges. Now, hear that there is a guy who is Salvador Clavé. He's an amazing professor in a university in Spain near Portaventura. It's in the same area,
Mhm.
and he with another guy who is Klaus Hoven, professor at University of Breda in the Netherlands. They have started to develop together a master's degree that is a pan-European master's degree. And they've brought us, Yul, on board as well. So now we are 3 universities. We are in a process of being approved. IAAPA will also be a partner. But like Amazing Parks, we will have,
Wow.
from Gardaland to the Science Museum in San Francisco. So beautiful, big partners from our industry. And we want to present a 2-year-long master's degree dedicated to sustainable leisure destinations. Now, can you imagine how powerful it is when you do something like this that is cross-European? So my wish is really, 1 year, as you said, it's truly very, very short. But what I want to make sure is that we set a basis, we start to see it in a way that it will be flourishing in 5 years, 10 years, and we will be proud of in the same way you've talked to me of education after 30 years. Now imagine that. I mean, IAAPA is Middle East is a key region. We know it right now, and there is a huge appetite for education. So
Now's
this
the
is
time to
another
plant the
place.
seed.
Of course. And this is a moment in which IAAPA can play a fantastic role when it comes to inspiration, education, and then, we all know safety standards and sustainability and all the big topics. But this is a thing where IAAPA can contribute a lot in that region.
I love it. I think that's exactly your objectives, your goals and objectives are in the right place. They're where they
Thank you.
should be. Let me shift gears a little bit here because
Yep.
we're on time, and I know you're busy.
Yep. Yep.
IAAPA, I've been involved with it over 50 years, and
Yep.
the backbone of IAAPA, Max, particularly when I got involved, because the industry was different at that time, was the small operators.
Yep.
Here in the United States, there were a lot of family-owned parks which have now been gobbled up by the big parks through the years. That's normal maturing of an industry. You roll up industries into bigger industries. But I think I wanted to maybe ask you what you think are some of the biggest challenges for the global operators that they're facing right now, particularly as it relates to Europe's maturing now like the US did. And as you just pointed out, the Middle East is growing, but in 25 years, in the snap of our fingers, boom, that'll be maturing and changing too. I just wondered what you thought were some of the biggest challenges now facing IAAPA in really in the global operators' purview, what they're seeing that they need.
So the big ones, the global operators.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the global.
I think that the biggest issue that everybody has is, of course, people.
Yeah.
So this is a thing we hear from everybody. I would rather say that smaller operators are less impacted because we are so familiar spaces that people who come to work for us, they want to feel part of a family. So it's a different kind of
require less people too.
Of course, it's correct. While of course all big players are strongly suffering on finding the right people, retaining the right people, motivating the right people. So I think this is one thing. The second thing is, of course, to be quicker in their decisions and be efficient when they invest. Because of course we know how much time it takes and how much it takes to develop a new area in a park or in an attraction or a new ride. And our most famous suppliers all over the globe, they have quite a long pipeline. If you want to order a coaster right now, delivery date, it's not next season. So the point is that the big players, they need to be able to anticipate trends in a world that is changing at speed light. And I think this is a huge challenge right now. Because then in the end, you need to build physical spaces, and physical spaces need time to build, to design, to order, and so on. And you can't get it wrong, because then in the end, you've been investing on that project for 4 or 5 years in the end. And when you open, I mean, if that project is not what people will fall in love with, that's a big issue.
Yeah, big issue.
The third thing that maybe some big players might not be enough aware of, is they need to deliver very good quality. And I think that, wherever big groups that were not born in an industry, but they come from finance, wherever they enter an industry, it can be the food and beverage industry, it can be, the industrial side and so on. There is a moment in which finance wants to squeeze the lemon. And the point is that guests won't fall in love with a lemon that's getting squeezed. Okay, so I think
lemonade, yeah.
So I think that a big challenge that is on the table right now is, how do you bring even more quality to this industry, even if you are maybe not the two biggest players, Disney and Universal. They have quite an obsession for, theming and stuff. Epic will be epic, I'm sure. And we've seen what Universal has done with Harry Potter and all of that and so on. But there are several other international groups or medium players that will benefit strongly by refocusing on quality and on higher quality. I give you an example, a success story.
Yeah.
Compagnie des Alpes, in France, they used to already own and operate several parks. And there was a moment, 10 years ago, 7 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, where the quality of their locations started to go down. And, it would seem a faith, they will forever go down. And then there is a fantastic management who decided to say, nope, we are not in the business. People won't fall in love with what we do. We need to reinvent that. And now take a look at what they have done at Parc Asterix, at Walibi. Walibi, they have done a fantastic work, Walibi parks. Futuroscope, think about that. They've opened a water park that's the most innovative water park in the world. And I read yesterday an article. They have in the pipeline so much revamping, so many new contents. And that's expensive. We are an expensive industry to develop. But they are working for the long haul, for the long term. And this is really something that I am inspired by. I think that this is a big challenge that all big operators have in the world, and all operators need to reflect on how they will go back to the three most important marketing questions. Who is it for? What is it for? What is the change I want to provoke in my audience? The change. And I think that if everybody's humble enough to answer with honesty to these three questions, I think that our industry has a big future.
Well, let me ask you then, following on that, what do you from a trending standpoint, what do you see as the most exciting innovations and attractions right now, and how would you use them to do just what you said?
So the first thing that I would love to answer to you is, the big innovation is people want a digital detox.
Yeah.
Okay.
I certainly do.
Most of us do. We are not used to desire that because we are into this vortex. But every time, on our park on Lake Maggiore, we are in the middle of nowhere. This means that the connection, the phone operators, the signal is really bad.
Yeah.
So you can't go on Instagram there. There is no bandwidth. And we decided not to give Wi-Fi because we saw a fantastic effect, that kids around the table with their parents, they're not watching YouTube. And parents pay attention to their kids and play together instead of skimming through Instagram or TikTok. So I think that one big trend that we will need to focus on, and this is also the survivor of our industries based on that, is how do we create experiences that are so beautiful and so engaging that people will keep the phones in their pockets, and not how to make them more Instagrammable. I want to see it the other way around. On the other hand, if you ask me, of course, the biggest shift that the entire globe will have will be through AI. And so what I'm thrilled of is, how will we use AI so that people won't be noticing we are using AI, but we will be able to serve them so much better. And we will be able to make sure we give them such a higher quality of product and a bigger value for the money. So to me, I'm excited of how we can use AI by pretending we're not using AI.
Well, I think that's very important, particularly when you look at me, you, and the kids that are coming up. I learned cursive. Hell, they're not even learning cursive in school over here anymore because they have their texting and their AI.
Yeah.
And how do we use that in a way, just like you said, that makes it productive but doesn't make it so obvious that it's mechanical. And
Yes.
I think we have to continue to do that because our industry, particularly here in USA, Max, is aging out. I mean, we are a mature industry now. We're
Yeah.
70 years old here. And if you do a case study on industries, you see how they age out as they move through the 50s and 60-year-olds now I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now we're at that 70. Um, one thing I wanted you to speak about today, because I know it's important to you, is sustainability.
Yeah.
And we've been talking a lot about that in the industry the last few years. Um, and we are making some progress. But quite frankly, if you did a survey and you asked the people how sustainability, our guest, is being used in the parks, they wouldn't have a clue. I
Yeah.
just wanted you to talk a little bit about some of the examples and thinking and thoughts you have as how our industry can really get on the sustainability train, if you will, and make it obvious that we're doing it, but make it also productive and worthwhile.
Yeah. That's a big, good, huge, massive question. We could talk for 3 hours about that.
Yeah.
So, from an IAAPA perspective, I am very happy because there will be more sustainability committees being created around the globe. So, I think that there are things moving. Now, I am the operator of a small attraction, and we have decided from the moment one to say we will only use energy from renewable sources and we don't use plastic. We are plastic free, 98%. Yeah, we use compostable things wherever we can. So we try to do whatever we can. Now, the point is that I love how we went from CSR, corporate social responsibility, to ESG, because the idea is that, of course, the sustainability of the business is much bigger than how much waste do I produce. But it's more what is the impact that I make, the positive impact, the ethical impact. So one thing that I love is first, all that our industry has been doing by supporting communities and people who are having difficulties when attending attractions. So it might be kids with disabilities, it might be families who can't afford it, and so on. And this is a thing that made me fall in love even more with this industry. And I think that this is who we are, and this should be part of our DNA more and more and more. There are places like Morgan's Wonderland, of course, that are 100% centered on that. But then there are several other facilities, big and small, that are trying to adapt. As you said, it's a mature industry, which also means that several of our facilities are old. And you need to invest, of course, and invest a lot of money to make them more, for instance, accessible or sustainable. But what we can do, on the other hand, is let's not think about that this is driving more business, because right now it isn't. And it won't for quite a long term. But let's imagine that our sons and our nephews will no longer visit a facility that doesn't speak the language. It's as if, all of a sudden we would no longer be able to speak English if we were in an American facility, so I think that our world, of course, it's in severe danger. I've been to New Orleans and I've been stuck 2 days in a hotel because of a snow blizzard. Now, this is really the
Were you
blizzard
there when
beach.
that hit?
I was there.
Oh my God.
There. Okay. Even CVS and Walgreens were shut down for
that
2
was
days.
a once in 100 years or 500 years. Yeah.
And Disney, the Walt Disney Company, was a visionary in building the Blizzard Beach water park in Orlando. They have foreseen the future.
Yeah.
Okay, so who knows? But what I mean is that we can make a little bit of impact when it comes to sustainability, but we can make a huge impact when it comes to inspire people to sustainable practice the other 364 days a year they're not visiting us. So I think that our parks, our attractions can be platforms. because people go there, they are having fun, they stay together, and this is a good moment to pass them some of the messages.
Do you think
And
the young people who come to our park are already adopting that now?
I think that they are much more sensitive to the topic, and
Okay.
as everybody else, they are very egoistic. We are as well. So you are very sensitive to the topic, but then you still buy fast fashion, and Shine and all these Temu platforms, and you prefer not to have a 5 minutes walk, but you order it on Amazon. So the human will never be perfect, but the more informed we are, the more we can make wise choices. And wise choice after wise choice, we set an example. So I think that right now, what we need to make sure is that every facility finds their own way of being a bit more sustainable than yesterday, and not doing it from a greenwashing perspective, but doing it because you believe that even if you change a little bit and you communicate it very well to your guests, some of these guests will get inspired, and they will talk about that, and they will inspire other people to do a better practice. So I think us always as a place where people can change. I don't know if I've used the correct English words. You will forgive me. You will
It's
forgive me.
perfect. I'm laughing because you've answered it the way that I understand it, and I would hope that you would, quite frankly.
Thank you. And it's what we do at university. We will see this. I mean, I teach marketing. I'm seeing these kids for 24 or 48 hours of their lives. Nothing.
Yeah.
It's a drop in the ocean.
Right.
But when I'm using that drop, if I'm able to convey one or two key messages that will help them shape the way they will be as adults, as professionals, I've done my job. And there are professors that have done it with me. And I think that we, again, as fun places, we can be fun and inspirational places. And that's what it is.
So quite frankly, just what you said, I'm not going into the story, but my boss, when he hired me at Coney Island here in Cincinnati, which was one of the parks that Walt Disney came to many times.
Wow.
To get ideas. I never met him, but he actually knew my boss quite well. They were very good friends.
Yeah.
He gave me that kind of vision and impetus to do what I wanted to do, and that's why I'm doing it today.
You see, it's like that. It
works.
that, literally.
It works.
It works. We are the proof. You and me are the proof. Jakob Wahl, again, is the proof of that. So I'm so thrilled that IAAPA has so many people on board right now, between volunteers and staff members, that have the same story you and me have.
Yeah. And I will tell you, Max, that in my history with IAAPA, I've never seen as many young people as interested in coming on as 2025.
Beautiful, huh?
Yeah. So
beautiful.
We need to continue to mine the ore, get in there and dig and keep them coming. All right. I'm going to put before we close out here in a few minutes, I'm going to have you put your IAAPA Chairman hat back on, ask you a couple of questions, and just give me your frank view. I'm going to tell you a conversation I had. I won't tell you who it's with, who it was, but prior to the convention this year.
We always say in Italian, we tell the sin, but we don't tell the sinner.
I'm going to use that. We tell the sinner, but we don't tell the sinner. Well, I was talking to one of the heads of one of the big companies, and I said, well, look, I'm really looking forward to seeing you at IAAPA in November. I haven't caught up with you in about 6 months. He said, Dennis, I'm not coming. He said, and I'm not really sending many people. And I said, really? Why? And he said, and I'm just being very frank with you. And I mentioned this to Jakob as well. He said, we love IAAPA. He said, but I'm not sure we need them as much as we did years ago. Okay, that was first part. And he said, and we certainly want to support the smaller parks. And he said, we will continue to do that, however, whenever we can. But it's become so expensive to go to these conventions, and there's so many now that we have to send them to, or could send them to. He said, we're just not going to do it. He said, we're we're only sending about 5 people. Well, this is a huge, 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 huge company. And I said, well, I hate to hear that, but I understand. First part of the question. The second part of the discussion was, he said, IAAPA's gotten so large. How many people are there now, Max, on staff globally? Do you know what it is?
I would say more or less 100. Yeah.
100 people. And that was the number that was thrown out then. And he said, we as a company at corporate only have 40. And we run this large company, billions of dollars, et cetera.
Yeah.
And he said, we want to be a part of it. We're going to continue to be a part of it somewhere, but we're a mature industry now and it's changed. And I guess my question to you is, how do we bring, and this isn't just your challenge, this is all of us. How do we bring back that level of interest in this changing, maturing industry, which is just it's growing and it continues to grow. So, what do you see us doing to continue to keep those big players involved? And I would say the smaller players here in the US have fallen by the wayside because they become part of the bigger players.
Yeah. So I think that there is a big trend we are seeing, and over the last 2 years, more than ever, how many people have changed company. So the first thing is that, I don't know about you, but wherever I'm looking, not for the big friends, you know where your friends are. But let's say all these people that you have met 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and now you think, oh, I should reach out to that person because I saw something I want to communicate. And all of a sudden you find out on LinkedIn or somewhere, they are no longer working there, they're another place. And that person in another place has gone to another place again. So this is a bit of what I'm seeing. So sorry, because I'm in the car and several are asking me for the parking, but I'm not giving my parking away, right?
Oh, don't yet.
No way, because I have a meeting here next door, so I won't be giving that thing away. So what I want to say is that, of course, there are mature, let's call them mature people in mature companies.
Yeah.
That have already, I would say, benefited as much as they could from the IAAPA cycle. But then we have thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of people that have never been impacted. One of the things that I hear every time that I visit a facility, I told you, I visited around 30 members. One of the questions that I always pose is, how many people do you have on IAAPA's roster? And many of them say 2, 3, 4. And I was like, but do you know that for free in your membership, you could have 50 people in your roster. You could have all of your managers, 200 people, 3,000, whatever. They look at me like, are you serious? And I'm like, it's part of our membership. I have, in my very small company, I have 20 people in the roster. Why? Because they get exposed to IAAPA trainings, newsletter. We all know what it is, and so webinars, education. So, and even the online members directory, the marketplace, you are searching for a tube and you can find in 3 minutes who is providing tubes and in which country they are. So I think that right now the big challenge is, as at every age, at every stage of our lives, we have different needs. And IAAPA needs to make sure she understands what are the needs of these top managers, like the one you have talked to, so that we can still find things that are relevant for them. On the other hand, we need to make sure that as a members-driven association with so many members and so many more we want, not because we want more member companies, but we want it to become, I always mention it as the community of communities. This is what IAAPA needs to be. And to be a community of communities, we need to make sure we have all professionals, all kind of people that are working for our industry there. We talked about the lack of staff members. If we ask somebody, what is the area of your company in which you are having many more difficulties? Definitely, it's maintenance, IT, the technical services. Mm-hmm. Okay. And if I look at IAAPA's roster, we only have maybe a few hundred people that are coming out of that area, that are registered. inside the IAAPA membership. And we have several more who are CEOs and marketing people, F&B, you name it. So I think that our challenge right now with IAAPA is, let's make sure we hear the wise people, the people that have been with IAAPA for dozens of years, and let's find what can we still do for them. Even if they are pros, they know it all. So it's much harder. We can't educate them. Okay,
Sure.
so it's a different thing. But at the same time, let's put full speed when it comes to the younger generations and the people that are joining the industry and have never been part of this industry before because they come from other industries and so on. Let's make sure we have something for them. So when it comes to events, that's strictly connected. In the global survey that IAAPA runs every year, and being part of the board of directors now for so long, because I feel like a veteran of the board, I'm the oldest one around that table this year, which makes me really, really fun. But I've been through several surveys, throughout the years.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing this growing aspect of, we want IAAPA to create situations that are not just the expo. We want to have another moment that maybe it's closer to where we are. So we were used, and I can speak for myself as well. I was used that in Europe, the only event out of the expo was the Spring Summit. Okay. Just 2 events in the year. So you would cover the entire IAAPA networking by going to the Expo and to the Spring Summit. If I look at the schedule now in Europe, IAAPA might have 20 events in a year. So the point is that I need to put aside my FOMO because I will no longer be able to attend every IAAPA event. But all of a sudden, I might have a very relevant event for my constituency, nature parks. That's once in Europe somewhere. Or I could have a small event in Milan next to my home or wherever it is. So I think that we need also to reframe. There is one big moment in the year that is our trade shows where we all meet. Or yes, it's getting more expensive. Let me also tell you one thing. The US got so much more expensive. If I want to take a flight in the US now, oh my God. If I want to sleep at a hotel, if I want to have breakfast.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like coffee and cappuccino, I can't compare. It's 4 times what I pay for them in Italy. So of course, I will need to make a selection. I don't know if I will always be able to afford to go to Orlando every year. But then I applaud that IAAPA is doing smaller events that are in other moments of the year because I can still feel part of the tribe. And maybe I will not need to invest $4,000 that are not given to IAAPA, because then in the end, what I pay to IAAPA for the entrance and for the few events is maybe 20% of what I'm spending the entire Orlando stay,
Yeah.
So I think, by the way, you make me reflect of one thing. Guests, if you ask our guests, do you think that the price is too expensive to enter a park? They will always say yes. Now some parks are very expensive for real. Literally too expensive, maybe. But still they are packed with people. So this tells me a story. But the point is that if I take a look at my park, you pay $35 to enter for a day. And then you will need to spend on overnight stay somewhere, the gas, the car, the food, and so on. This weekend for each person costs €200. And I only got 35. So I'm not sure that if I lower my price by $3 or $5, this is changing the thing.
Yeah. No, I'm doing an observation right now that as I have been, if you've ever seen them, they talk about this pricing image that we have, and for better or for worse, it's there, and we have to change that. When you break down the cost of a ticket to a theme park on an hourly basis, it's the greatest price value relationship we have in any entertainment form.
Of course.
But when you lump it all together, like you just said, and a Disney trip for a family of 4 now is $7,000.
Oh yeah.
How often can I?
That's why Disney should always feel the responsibility of making it the experience of a lifetime.
That's right.
And that's why we all, in our shape and size, we've mentioned Disney. It could be Universal, it could be Wonderwood. We have the responsibility not to give value for money, but to give experience value for the complete investment that a family has made on us. Time, attention, money, stress, cues, you name it.
You're in the chair. You're on the board. I said to you when you were walking into the hotel and I was heading out that night, I wanted to do this interview with you, and I'm glad we could do that. And I said to you, leave a mark, whether it's positive or negative, because you gotta be active in the chair. And quite frankly, Max, there have been chairmen who have come through, quite honestly, that have just let the association run the association that year. And there are chairmen who have come in and really made their marks, and chairwomen, I should say, chairpersons.
Yeah.
Amanda will get mad at us. I can't remember what she likes right now, but
yeah. No, chairman. You need to say chairman.
Chairman, okay. And I think one thing that we have to keep in mind too with IAAPA, and I preach this all the time, is that as I said to you earlier, the backbone of the industry was always the small operator. You're a small operator, and we have to find a fine balance between our association or membership and who's running it. And it's even more important today as it's changing, that balance between, are we a membership driven association or are we a staff driven association? To have both and have to have a fine balance. And I think Wall is doing an excellent job in his role with our president of the association and his team. But that does come up from time to time. So as a member of the board and a chairman, and you'll be in rotation for a few more opportunities through the years, you have to keep that in mind. Any parting words for the up and coming people that are going to be seeing and watching and reading this? What would you tell them about our industry, and what, if they like it, what they need to do? I just say I get letters and emails weekly from people saying, how can I get in and what can I do and how do I do it? And I love to help them. Tell them what to do real quickly.
Okay, so first of all, if I had understood that it was also going to be a video, I would have prepared myself visually in a better way.
You look wonderful.
Look at me. Okay, an Italian like this, I will be always remembered, like, an Italian.
This is Milano fashion.
Oh my God. Okay. With a Patagonia jacket, nonetheless. Okay. That's good. That makes me even more global and sustainable at the same time. First of all, you need to listen to the imposter that's inside you, but then you don't let the imposter drive. But you let the imposter be your fuel, because you want to get better and you want to be curious and you want to be generous. So then we jump into the second step, which is being generous. Whenever you want to enter a room, and in that room feeling welcome, you need to be generous at first. So the point is, how can you be generous to your industry? You can volunteer. For IAAPA or any other association, there are other fantastic associations in the industry, and we all need volunteers. So I think that the first thing is everybody should volunteer. Sooner or later in their lives, that's very important.
That's what you did. That's what I did.
Yes, but that's the only way. The second thing is, never be shy in listening and being humble at first, but then making yourself indispensable. And if not indispensable, at least useful. So the point is, listen a lot. I remember my first year on the board, I wasn't able to speak a word because I was scared, but on the other hand, I've learned a lot just by listening and learning to listen. While in our own companies, we already talk a lot. So that's a bit of a thing. And so the other thing, to a young person, I always say, print your business cards as soon as possible. No matter if you are a student, if you are 15 years old. Don't listen to the people that are telling you they're only using digital business cards. No, you print your own business card, physical, and you go to the trade show. And every time you sit in an audience at a conference, you give your business card to the person next to you on the left, next to you on the right. You introduce yourself. You understand who these people are. Be interested. And so I think that this is going to change to put you as a newcomer to the industry. Hey, it's not just young professionals. Let's talk about whoever is 40 or 50, was working for a different industry and just enters our industry. It's the same thing. It's how do you embrace this industry? And you embrace it by being humble, I think, by being curious and by being generous. So this is the 3 keywords that I would love to keep.
I think that's a great way to end our discussion today. Massi, Freddi, Chairman of IAAPA, you're doing
Dennis,
you're doing a great service by being in that chair and leading the young people. Leave a mark, please. Okay.
I'll do my best. I'll also
on.
dress properly next time. Okay.
Hey, we know you're in Milano, so you got great shoes on. You don't have to.
Yeah, more or less.
Look, thank you for agreeing to come on, and I look forward to seeing you at our next event, wherever that is. And if you get to Ohio, you guys stop.
Oh yeah,
I'd love to show you around. We've got a little park here that I was involved with a long time ago called Kings Island. It only does about 4
oh wow,
people a year.
It's a small park. I've heard it's a tiny park. Okay, Michael Shelton, if you're listening to this conversation, you know where we are going next together. Okay,
and Michael is more than welcome to. Massi, thank you very much. Good to be with you. Okay, I appreciate
you. Bye.
If you need anything, holler, bud. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.